This is part 4 of our webinar pool series, Sample Pool Checklist. Sample checklist. Again, this is more of a linear checklist. If you've got certain processes like multi-job that force you to have to repeat certain processes, not addressed here. But again, this is more of a linear presentation. And as we start at the upper left here, updating the cost-based creations. If you have a new account that doesn't fall into the existing wildcards, it's got to be updated for the create pool links process to work. The next two, update ICS, incurred cost submission code, on the project and to validate pool type on the pool setup. Both of those items are specifically geared towards updating the ICS or the incurred cost submission reports in Cognos. So that's the meaning of those. So if we want to use those reports, we got to make sure that everything is up to date, projects are set up with the right classification on them. This one here we'll get into more when we talk about pool reconciliations. These are the validation scripts and reports that you'd need in order to do reconciliation. Project classifications, kind of an odd one to have, but if it's not correct, it will impact the variance posting. This is how Costpoint determines direct versus indirect, is based on the classification on the project. So again, if they're not right, that will have an impact. Now, some companies may purposefully call indirect projects direct in order to get a variance posting against indirect projects. That's purposeful, so that's expected. But again, that will have impact. Verify and update org account linkages. As you saw when we were talking about the basics, it's org account links that have to be in place. So even though you may say a certain account or a certain org is in the pool cost pool-based creation screen, create pool links will not pick it up as a valid row on the pool unless the org account linkage is updated. Updating the FS summary. So that's comparing the financial statement summary to the GL. Pools as a source, because of performance, use the financial statement summary, not the GL as the source of data. So if the FS summary and the GL are not in balance, your pools are fundamentally flawed as well, right? So you want to make sure that they are in balance before you run your pools and start wasting time on reconciliation. The process to create pool links, and now it's taking the updated costs and base creation, the updated org account links, and actually creating the pool links to put them out there, make them real. And then run the build rate application. People call this different things. I've heard actually some companies, BRAT may be an acronym. So sometimes you'll hear that, build the rat, but whatever we refer to it as, this is probably that key process that takes all that logic of the pools, the tiering that's involved with the pools, the pool numbering, right? So a bunch of logic, creates the allocation application table, which sits in the background. There's no front end that allows you to see what it actually looks like. But this is the key table that Costpoint uses for the actual or for the use of application. Toolkits, we'll talk about that more at the end, but these are Costpoint provided toolkits that'll provide you good visibility of problems within the pools. Comparing the project ledger to the general ledger. Very important, especially when we look at the PSR and the pools that are on the application side of the PSR, to make sure that our project ledger is up to date. The next one is, probably should be in the number one position, whatever, but just make sure you don't have unposted journals. Can't tell you how many times we've gone through reconciliation and we're like, oh, there were unposted journals. Next one down is service center basis. So if you have a facility and your square footage changed, you need to tell Costpoint, because Costpoint's not going to know square footage of your buildings in the various locations. Whether it's a statistical or a quantity or a unit, somehow or another, Costpoint needs to be updated on what that new service center base value is. Now we finally get to, after all of that of validating and checking and cross-checking and utilities and everything else, compute the pools, get that statement of indirect expense created, and post the pool journal. This is at actual. Compute burden, moving the data from general ledger to project ledger and applying the burden rates as it's doing that. The next one is compute inventory burden, take those updated rates, both target actual, and allow the material or the manufacturing system to have access to those rates so it could apply it to the piece part and to the WIP process, manufacturing orders. Those people that understand manufacturing understand the importance of this piece of it. Next up is, now that we've got our pools updated, our burdens are updated, our project ledgers updated, we can run compute revenue. We should have a successful set of numbers for revenue being as up to date as possible. And then post revenue. Now, remember earlier I said variances are oddly part of the post-revenue process. So it's here that you make your variance selection and you would post it with the revenue. But then comes the table updates. Update the PSR, create the project report tables, create the general ledger tables. You need all your tables updated so when you print a PSR, it's the most up-to-date data, revenue worksheet, revenue summary, a financial statement with comparisons. All of those reports are the most valid they could be. And then, of course, we get into reconcile. This ends our fourth part in this exciting series. Give us a like, follow us for more,